Welcome to the Gloria Show, where personal growth takes center stage. Founder and CEO of Personal Dynamics, Gloria Sloan, shares practical strategies to enrich your life, elevate your mindset, and empower your journey. As she reminds us, ultra-successful people never stop learning, reaching, and growing. Get ready for fresh insights and uplifting inspiration. Here's your host, Gloria Sloan.
Hello, welcome to the Gloria Show, where personal growth takes center stage. I'm Gloria Sloan, founder and CEO of Personal Dynamics. Here we talk about practical strategies to enrich your life, elevate your mindset, and empower your journey. Because I always say, ultra successful people never stop learning, reaching new heights, and growing. Hello again to everyone, and welcome to the show. Today, we're talking about a skill that can transform how you navigate stress, challenges, communication, and even disappointment. Our topic is emotional agility, the ability to navigate life's twists and turns with self-acceptance and an open mind. Now, that phrase may sound a little formal at first, but it's very practical. Emotional agility is your ability to recognize what you are feeling, understand what is happening within you, and choose your response intentionally rather than react automatically. Now, it matters. It matters because many people are not simply overwhelmed by what is happening around them. They're overwhelmed by what happens inside them when it gets heavy. When stress rises, emotions flare, disappointment hits, or relationships become difficult, it is very easy to just react. It is easy to speak quickly, assume the worst, shut down, or let frustration make decisions for you. But emotional agility gives you another way, a longer time to think about it. It teaches you how to pause, how to notice, how to reflect, how to reframe, and how to respond in a way that aligns with the person you want to be. You don't always want to be that way that's always jumping up and saying things just out of content. But first, I want to share a story with you. I want to share a little bit about my story, and you've heard me talk about some of it before. I grew up watching my widowed father run a small business and learn what it meant to serve the community. I understood that entrepreneurship is a daily act of showing up. What naturally attracted me to business, and it gave me a foundation that would prove essential when I became the only Black student in my high school class during integration, a position that I held for 2 years and graduated as the first. Now, I'm sharing this with you because that experience set the pace of discovering how to navigate my growing emotional agility in life. It had a big impact on it. The path I traveled had hills and valleys, but I kept the faith, climbing every mountain. I later wrote about it in my first book to help others understand the twists and turns in life and the whole philosophy of life skills. I continued to study, to do research, and practice in the field of self improvement by self directing what I learned into a framework of life skills for the journey. And since then, I have spent 40 years of my career dedicated to teaching, training, and coaching using personal development directives structured to improve the overall quality of life and foster a growth mindset. The conversations on this show are designed to provide the strategies for personal growth and self-awareness to enhance your skills, drawing on every experience of my research. I felt it was important to share that with you in somewhat of a growing story because it's important to me, and it's important that you know some of my background because I pour it all into what I speak about. And today, as we talk about what emotional agility really means, it really begins with that foundation. Emotional agility does not mean pretending to be okay when you're not. It does not mean suppressing feelings. It does not mean becoming distant or emotionally cold. And it certainly does not mean that mature people never get upset, because we do. But my background had such an impact on having to face these twists and turns and all of the emotional awareness that I had to live with. I wanted to just share with you because I know it. Emotional agility means you can feel what you feel without letting it take over the choices that you really want to make. You can be disappointed and still be wise. You can be frustrated and still be respected. You can be hurt and still be grounded. You can be afraid and still move forward with courage. That is emotional agility. It is the ability to say, this is what I am feeling, but this feeling is not going to decide everything for me. The kind of inner steadfastness is powerful. Because without it, emotions can drive your behavior in ways that lead to regret a lot of things. You may say things you don't mean. You can assume things that are not true. You may completely shut down when you need to speak up. And you may become reactive when really what you need to do is just be in a reflection state, to just reflect. And then later, when you're left trying to clean up the mess you've made and what happened in the moment that you didn't handle very well, the emotional agility helps reduce those moments because it doesn't make you perfect, but because it helps you become more aware of what's happening before your reaction takes over. Emotional agility is a learnable, actionable skill that involves recognizing, accepting, and navigating emotions. It enables you to choose responses that align with your values. I consider it a critical skill because it can affect team performance and leadership. And that's why people react instead of respond. But then how do you overcome or get through it? Now, let's talk about why this is so hard for so many people, because it is. And I experienced it. It was very hard. But you can grow and you can work through it with practice. Most people do not react strongly because they are weak. They react strongly because they are overloaded. Most people do not react strongly because they are weak. They react strongly because they are overloaded. Sometimes the emotional response you have in a moment is not just about that moment. It is about accumulated stress. You've let all this stuff build up, build up, build up. It is about mental fatigue. It is about disappointment that has not been processed, and it's just built up on you. And it's about pressure that has been building. Yeah, disappointment, pressure. It's about old hurts that have not healed, because sometimes we just suppress and hold it in. And then when it comes out, everything explodes. That is why self-awareness matters so much. Practicing emotional agility requires pausing. This allows you to take the time needed to align your response, as I said earlier, with your values. Now, I've talked about pausing as part of a self-coaching framework, actually in my last episode. I encourage you to go back and listen to it again. Before you react, pause. Take one breath. Be still for a moment to interrupt the speed of your reaction. And then think about it for a minute. Just pause. You know, when someone says, I do not know why I got so upset, or you can say that to yourself. What and why? Or are you revealing this? Is it, they lost connections? And sometimes you do this within yourself in the moment. That's not something to be ashamed of. It is something to explore. Because if that has happened to you and you want to do better, so you ask, what is wrong with me? Is what happened to me wrong? I don't understand it. You're asking yourself these questions because you just went off. You just didn't know what caused all that. And you're trying to see where your feelings are, what triggered it. And then again, you start listening to the story that you told yourself. What fear got activated? Something inside you went off. What need was not being met in my life or in that moment at the time? These are questions that are very important because they help move you from judgment on yourself to a better understanding. And understanding, as we all know, creates change. If you never examine your emotional patterns, you will keep repeating them and calling them personality stress or circumstances. You'll give them labels. But often some patterns need attention. Because if you don't pay attention to them, the cost of that emotional stress that you're feeling becomes very rigid. And the opposite of emotional agility is emotional rigidity. It's a psychological state characterized by an inability to adapt to new information or changing circumstances. So you're rigid. That is when you get stuck in the same interpretations, the same defensive posture, and the same internal script that you keep telling yourself. I remember going through this over and over and over again until I learned how to practice it. Sometimes it sounds like this is always happening to me. They never respect me. I already knew where this was going. I can't trust anyone. I have to stay guarded. Because if I loosen my control, I lose. These are things and stories you're telling yourself because that's really how you're feeling. So what happens? Emotions stop being signals. And again, they start being the scripts, the stories that you tell yourself over and over and over again. And when emotions becomes scripts that you keep telling yourself, they start writing your life. Yeah, they're writing your life. Because when emotions write your life out for you, they shape how you talk, they shape how you listen, how you love, how you lead, how you recover, and how you handle disappointment. Those emotional scripts can show up when things get tough. Emotional rigidity keeps people in cycles. They say they want to break. You may not like feeling and saying and doing those things, but you're in that cycle. Not because people do not want to be better, but because they keep responding from the same unexamined place. You got to examine where you are sometimes, because if you don't, it keeps the conflict going. Something's happening all the time. It keeps healing delayed because you're hurt. You want to heal. And it keeps growth limited when you're in an unexamined place. It keeps relationships strained. Yeah, it has a lot to do with relationships. Overcoming this rigid moment or movement involves shifting toward more emotional agility so you can experience thoughts and emotions without being driven by them. You want to experience them, and you want to be able to incorporate good strategies that include mindfulness, meditation. You want to be able to have some acceptance and exposing yourself to new experiences. Emotional agility gives you movement and helps you loosen your grip on automatic interpretations and open the doors to healthier responses so you're not reliving the same scripted moments of the stories that are embedded in your head because they're so rigid, they're just there. You want to move from that and get into a better place. And it can happen. It's a practice. So stay with me a few more minutes. We're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, I'm going to share more with you about the power of being able to remove yourself from emotional agility to a better place and how to pause and use important tools to get you there. Don't go away. I'll be back in a minute.
Do you ever feel stuck? Like you know you are capable of more, but you are not quite sure how to move forward? Gloria Sloan's life coaching program is designed to help individuals break through limiting beliefs, build self-confidence, and gain clarity both in their personal and professional development. Through personalized coaching, Gloria works one-on-one with clients to create clear plans, strengthen mindsets, and reconnect them with their purpose. Gloria's life coaching program is virtual, flexible, and results-driven, with a supportive structure designed to keep you focused, accountable, and moving forward with confidence and momentum. Clients gain clarity, confidence, and the tools needed to unlock their full potential from the inside out. Gloria's belief that ultra-successful people are always learning and seeking new ways to find fulfillment and elevate personal development is what drives her fierce dedication to her clients. Are you ready for your next chapter to begin? All it takes is one powerful decision. Make that decision now and visit www.gloriasloan.com and book your consultation call today. Gloria's ready when you are. It's time to begin your journey.
Hello, and welcome back to the Gloria Show. Thank you again so much for joining me. We're talking about the power of being able to control your emotional agility. One of the most important tools in emotional agility is the pause. Yeah, we've talked about the pause before. The pause is powerful because it interrupts automatic behavior. Sometimes you just have to pause. Pause gives you room to breathe. A pause gives you room to notice when you are in the need of feeling your emotions. A pause gives you room to think. And what I love about it, a pause gives you access to wisdom. Yeah, you have wisdom. And when you can pause, that wisdom shows up. And let me say this clearly. The pause is not a weakness. The pause is strength under control. You're pausing, but you're under control. Anyone can react. Not everyone can pause, reflect, and choose. Anyone can react, but when you can pause, reflect, reframe, and choose, that is maturity. Sometimes the pause sounds like this. Let me take a minute before I answer. It's okay to say that. Or the pause might sound like, I can feel myself getting triggered. When you know that someone's jabbing at you and you take a moment to pause and you think, yeah. Or the pause might be, I do not want to respond to this frustration. You don't really want to respond, so you pause. And sometimes the pause simply says, I need a minute to gather my thoughts. Sometimes it's just, this deserves reflection, not reaction. Now, you have to be honest with yourself because you know there's been many times when you have been faced with something like this and you know you needed to pause or you should have paused to take a minute to answer or to gather your thoughts. And sometimes you maybe even say that in the conversation. That is not avoidance. That is wisdom. Let me tell you, that is wisdom. When you can take a minute to pause, and when people notice and see that, they know that you are stronger than they're giving you any credit for at all. When you can take a minute to pause and think about what it is you want to say before just reacting. Because when you pause, you stop handing your power over to the first emotional impulse that rises in the moment. That's strength and that's wisdom. Because you're just not giving in. You're taking a minute to pause. And the more you practice pausing, the more you begin to trust yourself. Yeah, you trust yourself in the conversations, you trust yourself in situations, in your environment, and you realize that you do not have to be ruled by every feeling that shows up. And that's critically important. Every time something shows up, doesn't mean that you have to be in that emotional state of expressing it. Reframe without denying reality. Now, after the pause does come the reframe. Yep, reframing. Because when you've taken that moment, you've taken a deep breath, a step back, collected yourself, as I like to say, and you say, I want to be careful here because reframing is often misunderstood. I want to be careful. Reframing is not pretending that everything is fine. It's not being fake or fake positivity. It's not minimizing the pain if you have been hurt. And it's not denying the truth. Reframing means choosing a healthier and more constructive perspective. And that's heavy. Reframing, regrouping. You're choosing a healthier and more sane way of handling things. For example, let me just give you an example on this. Instead of saying this setback proves I'm failing, because sometimes you feel like it's a setback. This setback is disappointing, but it may be showing me what I need to change. Instead of saying they challenged me because they do not value me, you might want to say they challenged me and I need more information before I decide what it means. When people challenge you, they'll say things just to see what you're going to say and how you're going to come back at it, and you have to hear the difference in your voice and rewrite that script that you don't want to hear anymore. Reframing does not erase reality. It expands the perspective. It gives you more to think about, more options to choose from, how you want to respond. An expanded perspective gives you more than one way to respond. And that is the power of emotional agility. It's powerful. And once you learn how to practice it and start using it, you become that powerful person, even in your conversation. And I like to say conversational poise. And for me, as I was going through different things in my life and I realized the situation that I had to ongoingly practice it. So what I'm telling you does require practice, practice, practice. There are 3 questions to ask yourself in emotional moments that can help you. And I want to make this practical. So take note. Here are 3 questions you can ask yourself when emotions are running high. Number 1, what am I feeling right now? Just stop and ask you that. What am I thinking? What am I feeling? Am I frustrated? Do I feel rejected, dismissed, looked over? Am I anxious? Am I embarrassed? Am I just plain disappointed? Or am I just tired, exhausted? Naming the feeling brings clarity. When you can name how you're feeling, it's okay to express it. If that's how you're feeling, that's you, your body, your mind, your soul. It's you. The next question is, what is this feeling trying to tell me? Is it telling me that a boundary was crossed? Did somebody cross a boundary with you? Am I just tired? Or do I need support? Or is this feeling telling me something important to me that's been threatened? Has an old wound been touched? Sometimes, people can step on your toes and they can say things and they're old wounds. And it can hurt. It can really make you feel bad. And, it just can mess you up for a minute. Feelings are messengers. Feelings are messengers. They are. They may not always tell the whole story, but they show up and they always give you something worth noticing. Yeah, a feeling. You think about it. It's a feeling. They're messengers and it's shown up to tell you something. The third thing is, what response would align with the person that I want to be? And as you're pausing, you're going to have a little time to think about that now. What response would align with the person I want to be? This is the question that shifts everything. Not what do I feel like doing right now, but what response reflects my values, my growth, my wisdom, and my goals. And this question moves you from reaction to intention. So now as you recap and think about what I just said, you're addressing the feelings, the emotional state that you're in. You're pausing. You're allowing yourself time to think about it. And then you're responding in a way of how you want to be. And that's when those values do kick in. Values are important because you want to feel good about how you respond to anything that has been upsetting to you. You really want to feel good about something that has jiggered a hurt. And, this can avoid a lot of conflicts, confusion, arguments, disagreements. So much of that can be wavered if we just take a minute to pause before saying anything and responding and collecting our thoughts. Because then when we do, you're responding with more vigor. You're responding with more integrity. And you're responding with more intentional meaning. And have you ever felt like, I really got to get back and say something to them, but you want to be in place? You don't want to be out of place. You want to show your intelligence. You don't want to lose it and, say something that you really, 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 really don't want to say. So by composing yourself and pausing and thinking about it, it gives you that. And that's when the wisdom kicks in. And that's when you feel this power, the surge. And then the question or the comment moves you from reaction to intention, because you have thought about it. You've paused and you let that power of your emotion gain over what you were really feeling, and you are able to address it with integrity. Yeah, with the goodness of your soul. And what you say and how you respond intentionally will really mean more to you, because that is the fact of life, because you've given it a chance to really, really think about it. I have so much more that I want to say about this, but we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to wrap up with some emotional agility in real life. Yeah, I'm going to bring it to a real life situation so that you can perhaps see a different perspective in terms of what it looks like in real life. You're living it, you're seeing it, you're speaking it, you're hearing it. But sometimes, not until something is really in your face that you can relate to. So don't go away. Please stay with me. And when we come back, we're going to talk more on what emotional agility looks like in real life.
Are you growing in the direction of your aspirations? Did you know your life's journey is shaped by the choices you make today? Now is the time to invest in yourself to grow, elevate, and upgrade your life. In Life Skills for the Journey, Gloria Sloan offers a transformational guide to unlocking your full potential. Blending practical tools, inspirational wisdom, and proven life skills, this book empowers you to take control of your future with confidence and clarity. From decision-making to self-discovery, from vision to action, this book is your blueprint for personal growth. And now, you can go deeper with the Life Skills for the Journey Companion Workbook,
a powerful tool filled with practical exercises, reflective prompts, and engaging challenges designed to help you apply these principles to your own life. Your personal development is your life. It's your evolution. Take the next steps in becoming the best version of yourself. Your journey starts now. With Life Skills for the Journey and its companion workbook, it's time to invest in yourself and lead the life you were meant to live. Available now on Amazon.
Hello and welcome back to the Gloria Show. Thank you again so much for joining me as we talk about emotional agility. And now we want to bring it into real life. Real life. You know, the science of personal development intentionally combines psychology, neuroscience, and behavioral science to improve cognitive, emotional, and social functioning. And this is important because it goes beyond the books. We learn to handle these aspects in life with hands-on application, the real life. And we do so by using essential skills. This is where I was taught the discipline of mastering emotional agility. And this is a true story. Because the art of practicing self-awareness to help manage life it's crucial. Business, professional careers, family, and social connections will test you. I was tested through my business. My experience with employees, training, and learning, I had to trust people in general. And this was a big test for me. And it changed. Almost every business owner has moments of emotional agility. I can assure you that running a business, and when you have employees, when you have things that you want them to learn, and I mean, I had challenges. Here I was training and trying to get staff and people to understand this is what we need to do. And when you have those emotions to set in, and every business owner goes through emotional agility when they have to address areas of concern with employees, with vendors, other people they do business with. And this is reality. So I'm talking about practicing self-awareness to help manage those times in your professional careers, in your business, and with family, relationships, your social connections, everything you do. We're talking about reality here. And emotional agility is attracted to it. And there's no exiting away from it. It's there, it's visible, it's in your face. And until you learn how to practice by training yourself to address this awareness with these emotions, you will continue to go into a cycle of being stuck, or into a cycle of not knowing how to handle situations. And in life coaching, that's when you talk to people about being able to do better with emotions, emotional agility. It's serious, but it can be practiced. It's a skill that can be learned, and you can be in a better space. In relationships, emotional agility helps you stay present in difficult conversations, without being defensive right away. Yeah, if you're talking with someone and something comes up, but when that emotional agility steps in, you know how to handle it. And if you care about the relationship you're in, you're going to try to protect that relationship with how you respond. You're going to pause. Yeah, you're going to pause before you go off and say something off the handle. You're going to reframe. Emotional agility helps you listen better. It helps you respond with more honesty and does a lot less damage. Yeah, yeah. It's not going to do as much harm because you're going to take the time to pause, to stop, to think. What I'm basically telling you is that sometimes you have to just shut up for a minute and be quiet and listen. In leadership, emotional agility helps you stay grounded under pressure. And if you're a leader or in a leadership position or want to be in a leadership position, this is even more important for you to practice this. It helps you lead with steadiness on your feet, clarity, and maturity. You look at the leadership around you in whatever organization, business, or just in general settings, and you can tell how the leader, the person in charge, is handling emotions when things get tensed and stressed. It helps you make thoughtful decisions rather than emotional ones. And if you're involved in leadership or you've been around someone who works on that, then you know. Because I'm telling you something now that if you hadn't thought about it before, now you can say, this is what Gloria meant. In personal growth, emotional agility, you stop defining yourself by your worst moment. It helps you learn from your reactions rather than live in shame over them. You learn from them. And in stressful seasons when things aren't going the best, emotional agility helps you separate what is truly urgent from what feels urgent because you are emotionally activated. Yeah, sometimes when that stress kicks in and you feel the urgency to hurry up and do something because you're emotionally pushed. It's activated something that you feel like you have to immediately do. That is a major difference. Not everything that feels intense needs an immediate reaction. Not everything. Sometimes it just needs a brief reflection. And sometimes it just needs a minute to rest. Sometimes it needs a boundary. Sometimes it needs support. Sometimes it needs a better question. Sometimes things can be rephrased and asked differently. Have you ever had someone to ask you a question and you didn't really quite understand it, or it just didn't come out sounding like the question that you really thought they meant maybe? And you really ask them, now, will you repeat that or help me understand what it is you're saying? Because you didn't want to answer that question the way it was directed to you, because if you had, it would have just, been a little bit off the chain. So you need for them to rephrase it in a way so that it's a bit more understandable to you. And it gives you time to pause while they're thinking about how they're going to come back at you. Yeah, you got to think about conversation sometimes. Yeah. Sometimes your conversational poise kicks in with your emotions. And again, the more you practice this, the more you practice it, the better you become and the better you're able to handle your emotional state of mind, I like to call it, in conversations. Now, what emotional agility is not is I want to be very clear about what it's not. It's not tolerating poor treatment. Just because someone is talking to you and saying whatever they want doesn't mean that you have to tolerate it. It's not overthinking every feeling that you have. I mean, people are going to say things. It doesn't mean you have to start overthinking it. And it's not staying calm while people cross your boundaries. And it's not using language to avoid the real action. Sometimes you can come up with something just to say to avoid what's really happening. You have to really seriously think about the language and what you're going to say. Sometimes emotional agility means having the difficult conversation. Yeah. Sometimes when you come back with what you need to say, you might just have to simply say no. Sometimes it's just a simple no. And sometimes it's just a simple stepping back. And a lot of times you have to do that to avoid either further conflict or confrontation. You just step back. And sometimes it means ending a pattern where if you've been in situations going through this over and over and over again with the same person, and maybe it's just time, okay, this is where it just stops right now. And you say, this is it, and you're walking away from an unhealthy conversation that could actually lead to something else. And that takes a lot of wisdom and strong person to do that, because sometimes people really, really, really want to have the last say. Sometimes it means recognizing that self-coaching alone is not enough. You got to go into a deeper aspect of it. There are moments when the healthiest next step is professional support. Sometimes when you're going through things, even with the emotional agility, you really do need to examine it and see if you may need therapy, you may need counseling, you may need coaching, or you may need a mentor or some form of trusted guidance. Because what I'm saying to you here is, in general speaking, I'm speaking from self-experience, from research, from training, from coaching. But I want you to be healthy in your next steps. And if it is professional support, if you do need to seek therapy, counseling, or trusted guidance, it's okay for you to do that. And that is not a weakness. That's wisdom. Yeah, that's being wise. Strength is not only knowing how to hold yourself together. Strength is also knowing when you need help carrying what has become too heavy to hold alone. Yeah. And there's a simple way to practice this. So I've got suggestion and a call to action for you. Let me leave you with something practical you can begin using right away. At the end of the day, take 5 minutes and reflect on the questions that I shared. What moment stirred me emotionally today? Just take 5 minutes and reflect on these questions. At the end of the day, what moment stirred me emotionally today? What did I feel? How did I respond? What did the response reveal? What would a more intentional response look like next time? These are just questions. When you wind down in the evening and you're thinking about how your day was, and you think about the conversations that you had or the situations that you were in, ask yourself the questions. How emotionally you handled that today, and how did you respond, and how did you feel when you respond, and what did it reveal to you? Sometimes we have to be quiet and sit in the moment and ask ourselves about our day. When people say, what kind of day did you have? Sometimes you just say, oh, I had a pretty good day, but you need to reevaluate that and ask yourself that question and sit down and tell yourself the truth. It's a simple way to build awareness. And when you can be honest with yourself and sit still long enough to answer the questions yourself, it matters, because awareness is where change begins. You do not become emotionally in place by avoiding emotions. You become emotional by learning from them. Emotionally, I go because you want to learn. You want to learn. And that is where the work begins. You want to learn to be able to handle your emotions better. That is where the work begins when you sit down and learn from how you felt and learn from what you were telling yourself. And that is growth. That's personal growth. When you can learn from these things that I'm sharing with you, you're growing. That is personal growth. Your emotions are real, but they do not have to be in charge. You can learn to pause. You can learn to reflect. You can learn to reframe. You can learn to respond with intention. And every time you choose awareness over being impulsive, reflection over assumption, and intention over reaction, you are strengthening the kind of inner leadership that changes your life from inside out. I want to thank you so much for joining me on the Gloria Show today. And I hope this conversation encourages you to slow down, tune in, and permit yourself to grow more intentionally. And if today's episode inspired you, go ahead, like, share, and follow me, and always connect with me so that you don't miss an episode. And please go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. And don't forget about the free ebook on my website, Everything I Want and Nothing That I Don't. It's packed with insights to help you create more clarity, freedom, and alignment in your life. And I'll leave you with what I always say. Ultra successful people are always learning and seeking new ways to find fulfillment and to elevate personal development. Until we meet again, keep growing, keep learning, and use your power to pause and reframe before responding. Thank you again so much for watching. Goodbye for now.
You've been listening to The Gloria Show. Be sure to check out www.gloriasloan.com for more tools, strategies, and inspiration. And don't forget to connect with Gloria on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Until next time, stay inspired, stay motivated, and keep moving toward your best self.